They hate when you elevate.
ATP, what it do with your boy Clay? More rain. Back at you guys with another one. Salute to all my subscribers. Thank you for the support. The channel is moving well, right? We're moving smoothly. Trajectory's in the right direction. If this is your first time tapping into the content, I am going to go ahead and invite you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit your bell icons as well, so that you are getting all the alerts when this content is dropping. So, guys, news is out. Maybe I'm a little late. You know, I kind of run a busy weekend. You know, this is not my full-time thing, but I try to stay on top of these type of topics and try to stay in tune with my audience. Look, Devin Haney puts out a message, tells the whole entire world, listen, man, March, I'm back. March, I'm back. What does that mean? Well, everybody has been asking about Devin Haney, talking about Devin Haney, not for the right reasons, right? As he, you guys know, came off of his last fight that he had with Ryan Garcia. Looking lackluster is an understatement, as Ryan Garcia was able to hit him with consecutive left hooks and just give him issues. A horrible storm for Devin Haney to weather, but at the end of it, end up losing a majority decision to Ryan Garcia, and also coming to find out off the back end of Ryan Garcia coming inside of this fight 3.5 pounds over the agreed weight limit, but also coming to find out that Ryan Garcia is participating in certain recreational activities that are not acknowledged or allowed in the boxing space, which is using performance enhancement drugs, right? Performance enhancement drugs that Devin Haney has gone on a campaign to not only at this point sue Ryan Garcia, but also attribute a majority of his loss to that. Now, the boxing space hasn't been on the same page with Devin Haney when it comes to that. Even me, myself, I can acknowledge that performance enhancement drugs definitely play its part, obviously, in a performance-based sport, you know, boxing, you know, or any sport, to be honest with you. So if it's in your system, it is enhancing whatever performance you're doing, but at the same time acknowledging that, you know, keeping that right hand up, keeping that phone close to your ear with a, you know, stop you from getting hit with a lot of those left hooks, and, you know, no performance enhancement drugs is necessarily going to force you to, you know, box poorly like you did that evening. Nonetheless, I digress, and I just go back to the point to say that the boxing space has been really looking at Devin Haney to see what Devin Haney plans on doing. When are you coming back to the sport, as Ryan Garcia has long been suspended, anticipating a return in April off that suspension, and Devin Haney not pretty much has told the boxing space that he didn't plan on returning, that he was going to take the next year off. So he's been back in the social media space. You guys have seen him on certain content creators platform. Well, not Devin, Bill. You know, all you've seen Devin doing, to be honest with you, is training, right? Added some new components to his training regimen with Mickey Bay, bringing Mickey Bay back, Nate Jones. And you've seen videos of him working on things, keeping that hand up, really going back to the basics of the fundamentals in his training. And everybody's been asking, where's Devin Haney been? Even me, if you watch my content, you'll see when it comes to the Devin Haney topic, the one thing that I'm pushing for is, when are you returning? Because I'm not into talking about boxers and their personal lives and their social lives. I'm here to cover the boxing space and things that are going on in the boxing space, mainly in the ring, right? So for me, as far as I'm concerned, Devin, what are you doing? When are you returning? Well, he answered, right, by putting a tweet out saying that, listen, I'm coming back in March. And if you're wondering where he's coming back to, well, here you go. BLK Prime Boxing answers back to the posting, and on Instagram posting, saying, see you March 25 on Black Prime. So needless to say, the boxing space is taking that message for what it is. So have I. We're anticipating Devin Haney to return in March, one way or another. Is it going to be a fight? Is he just going to be making his announcement on March 25th on who he's going to be fighting? We don't know. He hasn't made any announcements yet. Rumors are going around that it could be Adrian Broner, that it could be Tevin Farmer. It could be a plethora of fighters. We don't even know in reality what weight class he's coming to. Is he going to fight at 140? Is he going to fight at 147? Maybe he'll do a catch weight in between 140 and 147. Who knows, as Devin Haney has not really communicated to the space what his actual intentions are, except to expect to hear from him in March. And the space is going crazy on the back end as well. Coming to find out that Devin Haney is also registered with VADA, as VADA has invited him and welcomes Devin Haney to a 24/7, 365 program. This is going to extend to January 2nd of 2026. Basically, Devin Haney campaigning for clean athletes in the sport and putting himself in the same conversation of a Nonito Donaire or Canelo Alvarez, who themselves have volunteered themselves for 365, 24/7 testing, which just basically means at any random time, VADA can pull up on Devin Haney throughout this year from January 2nd of 2025 to January 2nd of 2026 to test him, and him just, I guess, campaigning to say that he wants the sport to be a clean sport, ushering in his return to the space about what he thinks is important and what he wants the space to become. And a lot of boxing content creators are throwing shots at him, saying, what does this mean? Who cares? It's kind of funny, honestly. That'll be another video to talk about that. But Devin Haney speaking very clearly to the boxing space, saying anticipate his return. Let's see what he's been working on. We're anticipating to see who the opponent's going to be, if the opponent's going to test those things. Quite possibly, and I think it's reasonable to say that probably be some tune-up fights that I can understand why Devin Haney would come in this way. Why come right into the hornet's nest fighting the best of the best when you've been out of the space for so long, not to mention coming off of a very uphill battle, to say the least, against Ryan Garcia. Now, on the back end of that, we have frenemies or enemies or people who are not happy, as Teofimo Lopez has gone ahead and communicated earlier that he and Bob Arum put out an offer to Devin Haney for Devin Haney to go ahead and defend his WBC title in recess and unify ultimately with Teofimo Lopez's WBO title. Rumors going out that from Bill Haney going out on an interview saying that Turki Al-Sheikh earlier last year, being that we're into the new year, had Turki Al-Sheikh reach out to him, that Turki Al-Sheikh put an offer on the table that Teofimo walked away from. What doesn't matter, because Teofimo went with Bob Arum and they sent Devin Haney an offer as well. Bill Haney walking away from the offer, and Devin as well walking away from the offer because the offer didn't have them as the A side. Bob Arum offered them a pay-per-view fight, 55-45 split, 45 going to Devin, 55 coming back to Teofimo. And Bill Haney said, why would he do that? Especially when he's in position with Turki Al-Sheikh, when Turki Al-Sheikh put out a very money positive offer on the table. And why wouldn't Teo take that offer? And saying, why would I go and work with Bob Arum? And he referenced an experience he's had with Bob Arum with his contract that he had, the 3-fight deal that he had when he fought George Kambosos twice and then ultimately fought against Vasily Lomachenko, seemingly saying that he came out on the short side of that deal and that he wouldn't be interested in working with Bob Arum. So Teofimo getting caught up in this whole situation. As we know, Teofimo did fight twice last year, but ultimately really 2 lackluster performances, right? One against Jermaine Ortiz that a lot of people thought he lost, and of course a win against Steve Claggett, a fight that he did win, but once again got hit a lot, wasn't looking his best. Coming off those 2 performances, looking to go ahead and move up in pay as far as a prize fighter is concerned, also wants to make the biggest fights. You guys saw Teofimo Lopez campaigning for fights against Terrence Crawford, campaigning for fights against Jerome Boots Ennis, even at points in time mentioning Brian Norman Jr. And ultimately, the last one that he campaigned for was this fight right here with Devin Haney, trying to be a big fight, part of the biggest fights in the boxing space, speaking on his greatness and what he wants to get done. Well, Devin Haney walking away from that opportunity ultimately because Teofimo, seemingly, from what Bill Haney is saying, had an opportunity to fight Devin Haney earlier this year. Turki Al-Sheikh put that offer on the table and he walked away from it. The boxing space has been calling Devin Haney a duck ever since. Where do I stand on this situation? I think it's interesting, to say the least, right? I think all those things that I went down the list of as far as Teofimo's journey for 2024, it's been interesting to say the least. Not active as I thought he would be, or at least not active against the fighters I thought he would try to fight against, being that he is the WBO 140-pound champion, also a lineal champion at division. Never aimed to go ahead and unify against other fighters like Subriel Matias at the time, who was the IBF champion. Since then, lost against Liam Paro. And Liam Paro, obviously, you guys should know, lost against Richard Hitchinson, who's a new IBF champion in that division. Even that's a fight on the table that he could have put together, or unify against Devin Haney earlier last year. I would say Devin Haney, let's put in the air, because we have to remember he did fight against Ryan Garcia. but not necessarily looking to fight in the division, wasn't looking to unify against the other champions in the division or even defend his mandatory at the time. I believe was Arnold Barbosa at the time, looking like he really was looking outside of his division to fight fights that just a lot of people would say far-fetched, right? Him trying to fight Terrence Crawford at 154 while Terrence Crawford is campaigning to fight against Canelo Alvarez all the way up at 168, or him campaigning to fight against now Jerome Boots Ennis, who's looking to unify in his division. And convenient timing, obviously, as Jerome Boots Ennis being an IBF champion at 147 pounds, that rehydration clause that's floating over his head. Duran ultimately at this point is looking to unify in that division. And if he can't unify, probably move up to 154, as he's really not trying to defend his title against mandatories and have to do rehydration clauses at this point in his career and as long as he's been at 147. Brian Norman Jr., supposedly there were conversations there, but Teo fell out of those conversations. And now where are we at right now as Teofimo is supposedly projected and being and Bob Arum thinking that he's trying to put him against Subriel Matias, who's not a champion right now. And also finding out that that fight won't even be on pay-per-view because Subriel Matias just hasn't built up the kind of fan base to support the idea of a pay-per-view. And I put out a video about that as well, as far as Bob Arum's whole perspective on pay-per-views today, and with the piracy and those type of things. But Teofimo seems to be in a position right now to where he needs the right dance partner for the pay-per-view, right? He needs the right dance partner, but at the same time has been on a very cringe campaign, to say the least. And that might be an understatement to say he's been on a very cringe campaign, poking the bear, some might say, as he's had some racial responses or things that he said in the public, as far as towards black people, as far as towards Puerto Ricans. He's had a moment in the light about all these different things. And you would say that in the spirit of making a fight happen, pissing off his opponents, making them sign the contract to offer him the biggest fights. And it hasn't really done that for him. Not to even say really hasn't done that for him. I would say just frankly hasn't done that for him, right? Really has just burnt a lot of bridges and blew up a lot of opportunities, even with the content creators who support Teofimo Lopez. I'm not going to say they necessarily support what he says or does, but in the spirit of making big fights, they feel like what he said should have responses involving, let's get these differences ironed out inside of the ring. The boxers don't feel the same way, right? Well, Devin Haney responds. Well, Teofimo comes out, right? I believe Teofimo comes out and calls out Devin Haney, right, on Twitter on the same day the announcement comes out and says, as you can see, fight with me, fight with Teofimo, you punk, and Devin Haney responds to that, right? And Devin Haney says, you talk about black people, but need a black person for a payday. Stay off them pills you love so much, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Even going in to say, Teo got the nerve to try to offer somebody something, but he out here begging. I told him he's going to fight for peanuts as long as he's with Bob. I'm making the real money. Well, interestingly enough, Devin Haney communicating how he's felt about Teofimo's statements that he's made in the past. And as I said earlier, none of those statements have ever built any real opportunities for Teofimo. And here he is on the backside of a cringe campaign in 2024, going into 2025. Basically still doesn't have any fights lined up, and it doesn't look like he's very happy about what's happening right now as far as Subriel Matias is concerned. As far as that fight is concerned, he doesn't even talk about it. He seems very focused on his Devin Haney situation, and ultimately is, you put it on Twitter and said, how much is it about my contract, right? So it's interesting to see Teofimo kind of go through it and trying to figure out exactly what he's trying to do. Listen, Teofimo has not made secret the way he's felt about Top Rank's promotion of him, about the way he feels Top Rank promotes other races, which might have a lot to do with a lot of racially charged statements that he's made in the past year. And right now in a situation where a pay-per-view is not in the future for him, Clearly, the payday that comes with a pay-per-view is not in the future for him. So the question's got to be, what is Teo going to do at this point? Does he just go ahead and buy into the process? I don't know how many fights he has left on his contract with Bob Arum or Top Rank, but it does seem interesting, to say the least, to watch Teofimo kind of figure this out, work through this. He's getting shot down right and left. Terrence Crawford telling him he only wants to fight in one place, and that's in the street. Here you have Devin Haney communicating that you want to fight me so bad, but at the same time throw shots at black people. But at the same time, here you are online begging for opportunities to fight against some black guy that can give you some pay-per-view experience and the money that comes with it. Turning down opportunities with Turki Al-Sheikh, but at the same time, you know, not afraid to go ahead and post, you know, a few hours ago on Twitter saying peace be upon you. And as you can see right here, putting Turki Al-Sheikh in there, right? So he seems like he's reaching out for some opportunities. He's looking to make something happen, and it doesn't seem like it's working great for him. Ultimately, it does seem like Teofimo Lopez, if he had it his way in an ideal situation, he'd be out of his deal with Top Rank and have an opportunity to go ahead and run to these other promoters, specifically probably over on the DAZN side of the conversation, especially we can even get deeper into it and say Turki Al-Sheikh directly to get himself the paydays that he wants. Interestingly enough, Teofimo Lopez has gone on record before in the past to say, right, to say boxing is a sport back in October. Please stop trying to make the business more important than us fighting for the best against the best. Well, interestingly enough, the business seems to be holding up Teofimo, and we don't know when we're going to see him in the ring. From what I understand, around the middle of March is what they're aiming for him and Subriel Matias to meet up, where he'll be defending his WBO title, and not even a unification that he could have had last year if he would have lined up that fight with Subriel Matias. There's a lot of things that are unfolding. Teofimo seems like his hands are tied a little bit. Devin Haney is going to be over there with BLK Prime. We got to see what's happening over there. What's the business going on with BLK Prime? You guys recognize BLK Prime for business that they did with Terrence Crawford a few years back when Terrence Crawford fought David Avanesian. That was on a BLK Prime card. I don't think they really made that much of a profit from it, really paid out Terrence Crawford a king's ransom to have him on that card. But ever since then, you haven't really seen them getting involved in the biggest fights. They've had smaller fights and things like that on their platform, but looks like BLK Prime taking another shot at the professional space on the back end of obviously PBC having a lackluster year, we'll say, in 2024. It does seem like there's some openings there for another boxing promotional company to maybe make a move and be one of those guys putting on the biggest fights possible. Devin Haney and Bill Haney seem to be in agreement, on the same page with BLK Prime, have some sort of game plan for a rollout that would make BLK Prime one of the premier platforms out there for boxing. We got to see what they're talking about doing. In the meantime, Devin Haney continuing to work it out in the gym, putting up videos randomly showing the work that he's doing, and we're ultimately waiting to see what fights he's going to line up, and ultimately for the biggest fights possible, namely the Ryan Garcias, the Teofimo Lopez's, the Shakur Stevens's if he comes up to 140. Plenty of fights, you know, even the Subriel Matias's as well, right? Plenty of big fights to be made at 140. But let's see where Devin Haney lands, right? Does he even come back to 140 as well? That's another question that only time will give us the answer to. Will he fight at 140? Will he be a catchweight? Will he campaign at 147? Maybe fight a Blair Cobb, go up there and challenge a Mario Barrios for a WBC title, or maybe a Conor Benn if Conor Benn beats Mario Barrios. A lot of things we can go into, but that's the big story, right? That's the big news. Devin Haney anticipating return in March with BLK Prime. Thrown off a little bit by it because who saw BLK Prime coming, but at the same time, happy to hear that at least there's some positive motion moving forward to see Devin Haney be active in the ring again. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Devin Haney back in boxing, March 2025. Teofimo Lopez back out in the cold. Let's see what happens. It's your boy Rain. Once again, shout out to all my subscribers. I appreciate you guys. And if it is your first time tapping into the content, I am going to invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit your bell icons as well, so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. But at this point, we out.